Welcome to One Breath Wisdom, the podcast for therapists, healers, and soul-led space holders, ready to lead from wholeness, not burnout. I am Lisa McNett, founder of One Breath Institute and co-creator of the One Breath Method. Each week, I will be sharing trauma-informed insight, somatic tools, and real stories from the healing path, sometimes solo, sometimes with our co-founder, Deborah Dickey, and sometimes with special guests walking this path in their own powerful way. Together, we will explore how healing, embodiment, and presence can transform the way we live, lead, and care for others without losing ourselves. Let's take a breath and begin. Hello and welcome to One Breath Wisdom. I am your host, Lisa McNett, and I'm really excited to be joined today by Joey Remy. Joey Remy is the owner and CEO of Happy Farms, a company that grew from his own need for healing and his discovery of cannabis potential. After medically retiring from the military in 2018, Joey moved back into nature, where he immersed himself in raising chickens, growing plants, and eventually gaining his hemp cultivation license in 2021. During this time, he also had the privilege of spending a lot of time with his sister, Lisa. That's me, plot twist, who introduced him to breathwork. Incorporating breathwork into his daily routine has drastically improved his quality of life, complementing his journey with cannabis and natural wellness. So, welcome, Joey.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you here. Since we've already let everybody know that we are related, that you're my brother. It's been so cool to see your journey, to witness your journey, and to see how you have, just embraced nature, embraced your own health, your mental, your physical, all aspects of your own health, and taken those into your own hands, and gone with these holistic, natural ways of doing that. So I'm really excited to talk with you today. And with that in mind, where would you like to start?
I'll just jump right in and just begin with how I got started on this journey, reclaiming my health after I got out of the military. I had some chronic back pain from a Syrinx, and that essentially gave me some nerve pain and damage throughout my back. And, incorporating the breath work in with my routine and my exercise and just being in nature really benefited me a lot. I moved back to the house where I grew up in Bell, Florida in 2018, 2019, and started farming. We're raising chickens and pigs and growing all kinds of herbs and vegetables, and really had a chance to focus and rehabilitate. And just very grateful and blessed to be able to have that experience moving back to Bell after having traveled all over the world for about 8 years.
Yeah, traveling all over the world for about 8 years, but traveling all over the world as being in the military and, having some pretty intense or pretty serious places that you have been stationed.
Yeah,
So,
that's the traveling in itself is a lot, military aside, flying across the world 3, 4 times and spending a year in Kunsan, Korea. Culture changes, shift changes. I remember when I was in Korea, my shift changed, I think, 3 or 4 times in the matter of a few weeks before I flew back to the United States. And that's one thing that over time had affected my sleep. And so a lot of the medications that I was using, they really weren't helping. I used Ambien, I've used pain relievers, I've used muscle relaxers, things for headaches, and essentially just kind of ease the pain a little, but not solve the problem. And then when I got out of the military, I was able to get my medical marijuana license, and that changed the game. I was able to exercise like I had in the past. I was able to begin writing and begin meditating and doing some of the things that I had enjoyed a lot up to that point, but just got lost track. And as you know, time goes by, and I think a year or two, maybe even 3 years went by before I had a regular holistic routine while I was in the military. So flash forward to moving back out to Bell and being able to experience living here and your transition as well. I got to witness the creation of One Breath Institute, and that was an amazing journey in itself. Seeing you help a lot of other people encouraged me to try the breath work, and one thing led to another. The most beautiful thing about your instruction, I think, is that once somebody learns how to do it, they can incorporate it into their routine pretty seamlessly. And it's not a, one shoe fits all type of deal. But if we are looking within and understanding our body and trying to tune in with it, then you could take a break here or there throughout the day and just do 5 or 10 minutes of breath work. But then in the evenings, I like to wind down and spend 20 to 30 minutes of mindfulness training and breath work before I go to bed.
That's great. Yeah, that really it feels so good to hear. It feels so good to hear. And anytime that anyone has implemented breath work into their daily life and mindfulness training in their daily life, and to know that as my brother, because when it comes to family, sometimes uh we don't always listen, or we're like, okay, yeah, or that they're the cookie one. But within our family, it's really lovely that we have a relationship where we've been able to support each other and positively influence each other. And you mentioned in I think it was in Korea that your schedule changed like 3 times within a short period of time, and how that affected your sleep, which I imagine it would completely affect your sleep and throw everything off. And taking pharmaceuticals, taking Ambien, taking different things to try to get back into a normal sleep cycle. Um, and then fast forward to, being able to use the breath, being able to use mindfulness practices, being able to use cannabis, being able to come to these more natural things, which also I'm hearing you say that it helped your sleep cycle, but also helped you to be able to exercise again, helped you be able to get back to um, more of the routines in your life that you value and that support you.
Yeah, it's been very healing, and think it's important to start there. It's something that I bring up in a lot of the meetings that I'm in and a lot of the presentations that I do, because it's really important that we reclaim, we take back the authority of our health, and that's something that I let slip because I was very interested in just progressing in my career field and doing the best that I could to maintain the equipment and help out in the shop where it's necessary. And we had supervisory roles as well. So if I'm supervising a shift of 8 or 10 airmen, you know, um, I would put myself in a position where, got to be there. Otherwise, you don't really know what's happening. And if it's a mistake or something falls through, I'm always been my best and worst critic. And so one of the main challenges that I had when I was reclaiming my health was understanding that I needed to give myself a little more grace. And over time, I started looking at strength and endurance a little bit differently. And we all get older, and I'm the younger brother. I've got an older brother, older sister. So I've seen you guys do your own thing in your own ways, and both of you are incredibly successful in everything that you do. And I think the most important thing that y'all bring to the table is that you have taken care of yourselves in the way that you need to, and it's a long journey and it's an uphill journey as well. So if we are going to be here and we're going to be able to serve, and we want to do that for a long time, then we got to be in good shape, both physically and mentally. And I'll say spiritually as well. I've been able to tap into that using the cannabis, and I use mushrooms as well occasionally. And I'll tell you, for many veterans, including myself, they've been very beneficial.
Yeah. So what would you be willing to speak a little bit more? Like, what was your position in the military? You hinted at it. You spoke about being an airman. You spoke about, working on machinery and equipment and being a leader. And I can just imagine the challenges, you know, that come with being in that position. I mean, I can't even really imagine it, but, of course, it can seem so easy to get away from, uh, having grace and being in control of your own health because you're in this, what I'm imagining to be a very high pressure environment. So yeah. So would you just share what you were doing in the military?
Sure. So I was in for 8 years. I made staff sergeant about my fourth year mark. By then, I had a few deployments. I had deployed to the Middle East once, Guam. I did a little bit of time traveling throughout the United States working with nuclear certified equipment. So once I've got my certification for that, I worked on the 196 munitions handling unit, which is capable of lifting up to 40,000 pounds of munitions to put on the B-52 aircraft. And then I reenlisted at my 4 year mark. When I did that, I had a short tour assignment, which was a year in Korea. That's where I finally got to work as a supervisor and earn my 7 level. So that put me in a position where I was managing the floor, and we service aerospace ground equipment. So almost everything that's on the flight line that they use to service the jets, all the hydraulics equipment to start carts, the aircrafts normally use an auxiliary power unit, but it's very expensive when it's damaged. So we had small gas turbine compressor jet engines that we would wheel out to the aircraft, hook them up to the aircraft to start them to avoid damaging the APU. And then everything from testing the aircraft's wing systems. You obviously can't do that in air, so we would hook hydraulic servicing carts up to those units while they're on the ground. And one of the coolest things I got to do while I was in Guam was we had a unit I worked with that was trying to rehabilitate a B-2 Spirit. And it's basically a top secret aircraft. So you got to be on a list if you go anywhere near it. And our equipment was used to test the wings while they were repairing the wings on the ground. And eventually they were able to get that aircraft back up into the air. That's the sort of stuff that we worked on. And then after my tour in Korea, Stephanie and I moved to Beale, where I worked mostly on ISR. That's it's basically surveillance aircraft, intel surveillance aircraft, and recon. And that's the Dragon Lady, the U-2, the Global Hawk. And, those aircraft rely on air conditioners, especially for cooling the sensors um, and the APUs, so that when they're taking out the film from the aircraft, it's cool enough and it doesn't get damaged. And in fact, when I got to my final destination in Al Dhafra, my last deployment, would normally get 24 to 48 hours of rest. But I had a friend of mine come to me as soon as I arrived, and he was like, "Hey, man, we got this aircraft. Like, they can't run any missions because we've got an air conditioner that's down." And it was a civilian group, and I don't know anybody that's been with the military or on a civilian side working with the military. They were civilian contractors, and those guys usually don't play. They like their stuff a particular way and fast. So I forego. I didn't get the 24 hours or 48-hour rest period. That's another broken sleep cycle. I went straight to the shop and we just started looking at this piece of equipment. And it's interesting. I write about this in my book, and I relied heavily on, just meditating at that point in time. and just thinking about what could have been. And later on that evening, I took a little rest, and in between the aircrafts taking off, I had a nice dream. And in my dream, the control panel for the MA3D air conditioner I was working on, it popped open, and the K10 contactor stuck out to me for some reason. And I woke up the next day, got ready, and went to work. And my buddy and I walked up to the unit for turnover, and I was like, "Can we pop open this panel real quick?" We popped it open, and there was a wire that was connected to that contactor, but it was just loose enough that the voltage wouldn't stay. And we fixed it right there on the spot. And that was like a 2 or 3 week or almost a month down unit that we were able to repair just then. Got it serviced up and sent back to the flight line. And so this is something like it's a bigger picture. And I think that a lot of people are working the way that I was in the military. They're on the grind, and they probably not paying as much attention inside and reflecting all the time. I just happened to at that point in time and got it. And I'm not saying that like the dream itself was what led me to repair the unit, but looking in and just understanding that there are other possibilities. There's a lot more going on in this world that we don't understand, and keep an open mind to it. That's something that I think we can all do a little bit better. And I'll say that since I got out of the military, using the cannabis and the holistic lifestyle and just trying to be as eat as clean as I can, be as healthy as I can, live with intention and with purpose, and then also looking inward and trying to improve along the way and grow all the time.
Yeah, but I love what you said. Um, you forwent, you didn't get to sleep, and you, from a place, like what I really heard you say is you didn't get to sleep, you worked on this equipment, and then you spent some time meditating. You spend some time meditating. So when we meditate, we tap into different brainwave frequencies. And you tap into these different brainwave frequencies. And then when you did sleep, you had your rest, you had this information, and you also had the insight to trust the information that you received and to act on it. I fully agree with you. You know, there is so much more that we have information that we have accessible to us, and we can only access that information when we take the time, to use your language, to go within, to
Right.
pause, to reflect, to open ourselves up. And then highlighting just that piece too, that once you open yourself up to connect with greater information, to receive that greater information, then we have a choice to act on it. You could have been like, oh, that was just a dream, that's weird, right? And that's what so many people might do. But acting on it, yeah, your buddy was probably a little freaked out.
Right. Yeah, it was pretty unbelievable actually, because truth be told, I didn't even have a lot of experience with that unit. I had learned it as a young airman, an airman first class at Barksdale. I had a supervisor named Sergeant Wagner actually, and he was from Kentucky. He always said he wanted to be a school bus driver when he got out of the military. And anyways, he used to talk about that a lot. Didn't talk about the MA3D a whole lot though. And so like a lot of what we learned, myself and the other airmen, it was only when the equipment broke down and it's like, oh man, now we got to go get Sergeant Wagner. Here we go. He's going to come out here. He's going to be talking about his hunting. We might as well just try and do it on our own. And we really, we did. And that's the most beautiful thing about being, a young man in the military. I got to go out and I got to actually meet people that had more skills than I did in some areas and then less in other areas, and we complemented each other well. But that unit I hadn't worked on in 5 or 6 years, and it just happened to be in my resume. We get an evaluation performance review every year, and in 2010 we had a really good marked for an inspection that I was involved in, and it stuck. And 5 years later, they saw it, so they tapped me. And cough, Coughlin was the guy that gave me turnover. I'm still friends with him today. I get to see him and his family all on Facebook, and they have a beautiful family. And I don't know what he was. I don't know if he had any thoughts about it or whatever, but I know that our shop chief was really pleased, and I didn't tell anybody about the dream at all at the time
Okay.
because I was like, it just didn't seem like a good time. I didn't even really. And it's hard to believe myself, actually. I'm going to be honest with you because, as mentioned, I didn't have experience in the unit. You have a dream like that, and you're like, you mentioned it's a dream, right? Like, it's just a dream. Well, how many thousands or millions of dreams do we have every night? How do we access little tidbits, the most important parts of them? It takes time, it takes a lot of patience. And when I was younger, I used to have these really vivid dreams and I would write them down. And that's a good practice for anybody that's wanting to really tap in and understand a little bit more what's happening in the subconscious world. If you wake up and immediately start writing it down, even if it's foggy and you only remember a lamp or a car or you're on the road traveling, just write that down. And then over time, each day or night when you wake up, just write a little more. And what will happen is your memory will start to fill in the blanks.
Yeah, great tip for everyone. Yeah, of course you wouldn't go and say I had a dream. But how yeah, they must have been so impressed with you. Yeah, you had it on your resume that you worked on this thing 5 years ago, so they called you up for it and boom, the hero,
Yeah, it
the hero in
wasn't,
the
I didn't feel
situation.
heroic. I didn't feel heroic at all. It was more like, all right, good. Now I can go back home and go to sleep.
Sure, yeah, I'm sure. Again, the pressure, the stress, the lack of sleep, all of that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your book and I want to come back to it, but you did mention, and it just connected to me now, Syrinx, that is the condition in your spine. I recalled it having a longer name, but I
Yeah,
have it
that's
connected.
correct. Yeah, it does have a longer name, syringomyelia. It's a little harder to say. But it is a condition that is hereditary mostly, or can come from an injury as well. And mostly it affects people older as they progress in their age. So there's no telling how long I've had it in my back, but it's just a fluid filled cyst in the middle of my spine, and it prevents the cerebral flow up and down throughout my spine. We can't measure how much the reduction is in the flow or anything. The only real remedy for it medically is surgery. However, that's not my intention at all. And as you know, I don't like to go to the doctor's office for much. And I've found that, just trying to stay moving and reduce the level of inflammation helps a lot. Um, and that's a pretty good way into CBD. And cannabis is known for reducing inflammation. We've known that for a very long time. And not only that, it helps with a lot of other stuff also. I've enjoyed using edibles. I've cut out smoking because obviously that increases inflammation. Um, and during the day, I normally use CBD. In the evenings, I like to use hemp derived THC products. I've transitioned away from using my medical marijuana license as much. I do enjoy the marijuana, but it's not as therapeutic. So for day to day, I work probably 30 to 40 hours a week, and I have the boys full time. We're always doing something with them. So I try and stay light on my feet and mobile during the day, and then in the evenings I take it easy.
Okay. Yeah, so for those who don't know the difference between hemp or marijuana or THC, like these different terms that you're using, will you explain that, the differences?
Sure. There are legal differences. I'll get to those. But first, the most important thing is to consider the THC content, generally speaking. If it's incredibly high in THC, then it's usually THC coming from marijuana. If it's low in THC, then it's usually CBD coming from the hemp plant. And that's sort of where we have fit in because the dispensaries are very happy just selling the highest percent THC possible. And they most dispensaries won't supply CBD at all. They'll supply some forms of marijuana that have a very little bit of CBD in them. But for whatever reason, I think it's tied to the money. They're just pumping out high THC strains. So what we have is we've been growing here. We've been growing hemp and CBD for going on 5 years now. The technical definition is hemp has less than 0.3% total THC or delta 9 THC, and anything over 0.3% of the total THC is going to be marijuana. And it's a distinction from the state of Florida. That's what we work with. So in my lot, if I grow a crop and it's analyzed and the certificate of an analyzation comes back and it says that it's 0.31% THC, that's over the threshold. And so immediate action would need to be taken to bring that level down. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to harvest it. But we haven't had that issue yet. Been pretty good hitting those marks. And when we produce a certificate of analysis, it's always less than 0.3% on the total THC. And then it's generally between 10 and 15% CBD by dry weight. And that just means, if you have a bud, then and it's analyzed, then they have a measurement for determining how much the CBD content is in that small flower. And just for health benefits and for anybody that's listening who might be interested in trying cannabis, if it's the first time, you want to speak with your doctor about it. And we encourage all of our customers to start with the low dosage and work your way up. It's not a race, and every individual is responsible for determining their own limits.
Yeah, and thank you for that in-depth explanation. And one key point that is important to me that I didn't hear you say is that the CBD generally or doesn't have the psychotropic effects, the same
That's correct.
psychotropic effects that the marijuana has. Is there anything you can speak to more about that or correct
Yeah,
me?
that's true, mostly. So that's kind of where we get into hemp derived products. And so just imagine on the spectrum, CBD is your lowest amount of THC or no THC. We have some products that are isolates and there's no THC in them at all. One of our best CBD gummies is a pectin organic and vegan formula that Treadwell Farms makes for us. And it's CBD mixed with vitamin C and elderberry. We also have a CBD recovery gummy that has watermelon infused to it, so it helps replenish the electrolytes and gives you a boost of CBD to help remove inflammation. So working from there up, we do have stronger gummies that have hemp-derived THC in them. So anything from 10 milligrams and up, pretty much, because it's not marijuana, we're not required to fit in the same box as the dispensary. So a lot of our customers, they see us and they're like, oh, CBD, well, I can't get THC from here, so I'm not interested. Well, we have a really great THC gummy as well. And that's for people that are looking for the psychotropic effect. And essentially the way that it works is all of the THC products we carry are derived from the hemp plant. That's to say, when the plants are harvested in large lots, they're put through a process, and the process isolates the CBD, the THC, the flavonoids, and all the rest of the plant, and takes it from what would be a full spectrum plant to an isolated. And so basically, we can formulate a THC gummy from the hemp plant because the plant has less than 0.3% delta 9 in total THC in abundance. We infuse that hemp derived THC into each gummy, and it hits the right dry weight. And the state of Florida is satisfied with it because it doesn't have any dyes, and it's organic and vegan formula. And we've had a lot of people come to us and thank us for having this product. It's kind of blown me away. We've had a woman that was providing it to her. It was either her grandfather or her father, older gentleman in her family. He was terminally ill with brain cancer,
Mm.
and she reported really good relief from it. We've had veterans that have used it for anxiety, and those testimonials stand for themselves. And then in my own personal experience, if I'm in breakaway pain, and I don't want to smoke because I can't be having that feeling like I need to keep my elements, then I will eat a gummy, and I'm still able to function around the house as needed and be able to be very productive still.
Yeah. Okay.
And then so I'm also excited. The legislation will be changing very quickly soon here. And the last time I checked, the proposal for rescheduling marijuana from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3, that bill had passed, is going to the Senate for approval, I believe. And I hope that they really push this thing through, because at this point in time, I mean, there's no reason to stall it any further. Everyone either uses cannabis or knows somebody who has used cannabis and improved their quality of life. So I think the only real hang up is going to be with the legislation is going to be with a lot of the bigger organizations, tobacco, alcohol, all those lobbies, they don't stand to benefit from the legalization of it.
Yeah. Okay. Then the legalization of it would be for can you
Recreation.
for
So
recreation?
last year we voted to make it recreational in the state of Florida. We got 56.3% of the vote, but in Florida it was required to have a super majority. So they're going to reintroduce the bill to try and gain the 60% either later on this year or next year. And from what I've read in the legislation, I think they're going to incorporate home grow of maybe 5 to 10 plants to get that remaining 5% vote.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. I'm just connecting here with so much,
It's a
with
lot.
so
I mean,
much.
this is what I
Yeah.
do every day, and I love talking about it. So if you have any questions, feel free to jump in anytime. Or otherwise, I'll just talk about it the rest of the pod. I could just go on about the
Well,
legislation
I'm
in
really
itself for the rest of the podcast.
yeah, I'm really appreciating, so for me, there's when we talk about hemp and when we talk about marijuana use and when we talk about the recreational and the medicinal uses of it, and even, yeah, just the plant in general, there's so many different things that come up for me. Being somebody who works with people in addiction recovery, and there are people who who do become and to their detriment. Anytime addiction is when you use any substance, whether it doesn't have to be a substance. It could be a phone. It could be gambling. Process
Right.
addictions as well. Anything that you are using to your detriment, right? To your detriment, that is creating more harm in your life and in your relationships. And so and coming to it from the there is that, and then coming to it from the place of how much good it does for people such as yourself and such of the people that you're talking about and that I know that you help. You spoke about the person with the brain tumor, you're speaking, or the brain cancer. I think you said brain cancer.
Yeah. Mhm.
And then all of the different veterans who are benefiting from your work and all of the different chronic pain experiences, and how much. Yeah. So can you just share a little bit more
Yeah,
about
I
the
would
ways
love
that it
to.
helps people?
It's a subject that a lot of people don't talk about in the industry enough. And back to where we began, recapturing and taking back the authority of our own health means doing what's best for us. And I think that too often we, as a culture and a society, we go to the doctor many times just to check the box and say, all right, well, I went to the doctor, like I'm okay, and now he told me to take this pill and I'm going to do all right. Or if you have a good doctor and they tell you to eat right, and they tell you to exercise. All right, the doctor said eat right, let's exercise. And it's like, well, real good health starts with listening to the body and understanding yourself before going to talk to somebody else about it. And it's simple for us to just say, you know what, I did everything the best that I could, and I'm here. So this is just my situation. I made it a point to stop thinking like that when I got out of the military, because just generally speaking, the only real people that in my life that wanted me to benefit was my family and myself. And when I was speaking to a lot of these physicians, they didn't seem to really have the solutions that I was searching for. So, have you ever known somebody who's like, weed's not addictive? I could quit right now, like easy. I know hundreds of people that have said that or whatever. And now when somebody says it to me, I'm like, really? For how long? And again, I'm thinking like maybe a couple days, like a week, a month. But just the same as if you're eating junk food and then you go on a cleanse, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some effort. It's going to take some energy, and there can be withdrawals, and so there's certain things to take into consideration when using cannabis. And number one, I don't advocate for cannabis use in our kids, with our youth, unless it's necessary medically, um, or there's no other solution. Um, and that's just because so many kids can get addicted to it. And I've seen it. We all have. And that term burnout, it's a real term and it has a definition. And my definition for it is a little bit different because I understand the endocannabinoid system, and the ECS is in each one of us. It's responsible for helping with motor function, thought and cognitive ability, creativity, mood, all these different things. And the way that it works is, well, it produces cannabinoids naturally for us. This is something naturally that is amazing and it's fantastic. And we have it going on all the time. But if you have too much production of cannabinoids or you're using too much cannabis, then you can burn out your endocannabinoid system and you'll feel sluggish and you won't feel focused. Motivation will come here and there instead of all the time. So a lot of it can be remedied just by stopping smoking, cessation. Smoking is the most important factor. If somebody's smoking a lot, they're going to wear their endocannabinoid system out. Their tolerance will be lower and they'll need more and more THC. That's the reason why, as mentioned, a lot of the dispensaries are just continually increasing the THC limits. It'll go from 20 to 25. It's up to 30 and 32. Next year, it'll be 35 regularly. And before, the next 10 years go by, we might be at 50%. And that's just, naturally occurring THC in the flower. That's not even discussing the compounded THC that's in our vapes. So the best remedy for anybody who's not getting the benefit of their cannabis anymore is cessation. And then the next best thing is going to be just to implement healthier eating, exercise, a daily wellness routine, and then being out in nature as much as possible. Those are all things that will clean the pineal gland out, in my experience.
I just learned something. Yeah, I just learned something. Thank you for sharing that. Um, yeah, I know that um, I learned from you originally about the endocannabinoid system and how we have how we have that and how the CBD can help to regulate that and support that. But I just learned that you can also use too much and burn it out. So that makes perfect sense, and it gives a perfect visual of what is happening when people use too much.
One more thing I want to mention
Yeah.
is obviously I'm not a doctor. I don't have any medical history or anything like that, other than self-aid and buddy care when I was in the military, but I wasn't very good at that. Like stinting an arm or leg and carrying somebody through training. I'm not interested. My interest is I use my own experience and experience of our customers and the people who I care about that have given me real solid testimonials and just coupled it with the information I'm gaining. And my journey started at a real funky time. And in 2020, when COVID was full blast, we were here and I was doing the research. I was experimenting on myself with a lot of these different therapy techniques. And what I came to understand very quickly is that um, the answers that I was searching for didn't come from CNN or Fox. There wasn't a Dr. Sandra Gupta or whatever his name. He wasn't announcing that CBD has the potential to prevent you from getting COVID. He wasn't saying that, but the National Institute of Health, Oregon State, Hawaii, and a lot of other leading organizations were they were publishing research that they did in their universities that supports the fact that CBDA and THCA create an acid barrier in your bloodstream that could prevent COVID from entering your cells. And THCA or CBDA, that's just think of it as in chemistry, THCA has an acid chain on the end of it, but once it's ignited, the A disappears and it becomes THC. The same thing with CBD. So if it's not activated, then you can use it in your body. And the way you can do that is with an edible, especially like just raw cannabis, or a lot of edibles that are full spectrum in particular are very effective. But getting as much CBDA into your system will help with more things than just potentially preventing COVID. It could potentially help with Alzheimer's. It could help with a number of just really intense, um, illnesses that people experience every day. And I think that I've been blessed with the ability to communicate with hundreds or thousands of people that have been using cannabis for a long time. And in my opinion, in my perspective, is that with healthy adult use, um, most people are able to determine the amount that's correct for them and implement it into their daily routine seamlessly. And that's whether or not you have any experience with it at all. And a lot of those people just use the CBD because there's no psychotropic effect. Or if you're a marijuana user, we've got the THCA gummies, and those are really good for a lot of things. And I'm trying to lead more and more of our customers who smoke marijuana or smoke the THCA flower to use the edibles more regularly because then their endocannabinoid system won't wear out as quickly.
And you mentioned also earlier in our discussion that smoking creates inflammation.
That's true. And not only that, but it's the most addictive form of the consumption. Just because of the very act of putting it to your lips and that comfort that comes along with it. It's an instant gratification compared to where the edibles take some time for it to set in. And even then, it's not instant, it's more smooth and lasts longer. It's sustained. And so, for people that work a lot, they're working professionals, they're athletes in the healthcare industry, veterans, a lot of people that they still want to be able to work and not have to deal with what comes out of using pharmaceuticals all the time. That's part of the reason why we named the company Happy Farms. It was kind of an evolution, and it was my evolution was using pharmaceuticals and then medical marijuana and then hemp derived products.
Yeah, so pharmaceuticals, I mean, you're speaking to, we're both speaking to it a little bit, but you provided some really in-depth information about how to safely use the plants. And they're plants. And this is more natural medicine than pharmaceutical drugs are. A
Yeah,
lot of the pharmaceuticals, opioids, there's a big epidemic
yeah,
um,
huge.
about these opioids and how addictive they are and how many people die every year as a result of opioids and other types of pharmaceuticals. And so So yeah, so supporting people in moving away from or being able to decrease the number of pharmaceuticals they're on and use natural medicine, natural plant derived medicine, and then, also things like meditation and breath work and being in nature that are also healing. Um, yeah,
That's
great
one of
work.
my favorite things to do, actually, is to use cannabis and then go out and be either gardening or take a walk or, do some things around the yard. Yeah, just going back to the pharmaceutical question. So I don't believe that there's like a individual at the top of each organization that's like evil, that's just trying to control people in the way that they consume their medicine. I used to think that way. It's a cynical way of thinking, and I've since changed my entire perspective. I think that the systems that we're currently operating were created for people to try and sustain themselves financially, and then over time, you know, as good as capitalism is, we all know that you need to kind of increase your revenue every year if your company is going to survive. And so it spiraled out of control to the point where the pharmaceutical industry went from having good intentions and trying to help people to potentially damaging them, and doing that by only focusing on the bottom line. Well, we're in the midst of a health revolution right now. It starts inside each and every one of us, taking back our own health. And obviously, the best case scenario is for us to not need anything, no supplements, because we're getting all the vitamins, we're getting all the supplementation from our whole foods and a good food supply system. That's really difficult and challenging right now. And so instead of trying to think about how, other organizations can change, so to speak, to better serve me, taking back our health kind of meant like growing more of our vegetables on the farm here, and we've had chickens and we've had pigs. The blessing of having that food readily available, and more importantly, knowing how to produce it, it gives the mind a lot more ease, just in case somebody might be worried about if things continue to spiral out of control. Well, where are we going to be at? I mean, you're not going to be able to just like take a pill or just go to your doctor or just drive to the store even. So I think it's important for all of us to consider that those things that which seem really difficult, or for some people might feel like impossible, it's really not that difficult at all if you apply yourself. Even if you're living in the city and you don't have a garden in your front house, you could buy a hydroponic aero garden. And that's something that I was able to do in 2016. On my final deployment, I brought a aero garden with me to the desert. And a lot of my buddies were like packing protein in their bags, and they're like, I'm got to get my vitamins and my creatine and all this. I'm over here shipping in like I have grown like some basil. I had some basil seeds and like some oregano stuff shipped in. And then in our living quarters, I had this small little tower light with a water reservoir and seed pods. And we had fresh herbs. All my guys, if anybody was making a salad or something, every now and then they come by and be like, "Hey, can I take a little sprig of your your herbs here?" And it wasn't a lot, but the point is, we can bring the nature right to us into our own home now. And I don't have anything against artificial intelligence or any of the other systems that we're moving towards. It's all seems pretty natural to me in the human development. And my goal professionally is to try and learn and become familiar with all of these tools while staying natural and having an organic perspective. So I think that's it. It's using the tools that are effective around us and not being afraid of them, and also trying to implement nature and wellness and all of these routines like breath work into our daily lives, and being intentional about it. If we're intentional about it, there's plenty of time to do all this stuff in one day.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had a flashback when you talked about the hydroponic garden to you and Stephanie's apartment in
Oh yeah,
when you were stationed at Beale. They had I believe it was a two-bedroom apartment with a little patio, and like one of these bedrooms was just filled with hydroponically grown vegetables. And I believe you also had my memory says you also had a bunch growing on the patio. So
that's right.
it was kind of a small apartment, and you were growing so many vegetables and herbs.
Yeah, I loved that setup. We had 52 plants in one room. I think it was like a 12 by 8 room. It was our office. And it was just hydroponic. Each hydroponic reservoir had a few plants in it. We had flowers growing, jalapeno peppers, cucumbers, a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, that room quickly became our little gardening area. And also, the best thing about I like hydroponics is anybody can learn them. You can buy a kit from aerogarden.com or even Amazon for like $50 or so. And you could have your own fresh vegetables right there. You don't have to create a hydroponic system like we had with 50 something plants in it. Just start real simple with something easy, and they provide the instructions. Within a week, you could have your own oregano growing, or flowers, or whatever the heck. Jalapenos, that's one of my favorite things to grow. I love peppers. And, I think that the most important thing I've gained from gardening and growing and horticulture is I feel good when I'm planting in the garden. When I'm working on the garden, and it's a real therapy in itself, growing things. It's not easy all the time. Sometimes it is, but you go through sprouts where it's like you lose some things here and there, and adds humility. And I think that in a day and age where we're so tuned into what we're doing, a lot of us, especially me and other people who run businesses, is we get focused on the day-to-day task. Well, this is a really fantastic way to break up that monotony, so to speak, and then separate yourself a little bit and bring it back home.
Yeah, I mean, and that's life, the ups and
Right.
downs, the ebbs and flows, the losing things. And there are studies that show that just by putting your hands in soil, there are chemicals that do improve our mood and can help with depression. And plus you have you're getting to be part of life. You're getting to be part of something grow. And when you grow something on your own, like I'm keeping a bunch of plants alive in my office and it feels really good. you know?
Right.
Like growing that. And I love this, the key point that you keep coming back to is the necessity of taking our own power back, like connecting inside, really starting to be self motivated, self-reliant, to know thyself and to know what is best for yourself. We all have that. I'm a firm believer as well. We all know what is best for us, but you have to cut through some of the programming, the conditioning, the external people telling you what these ideas that we have, to really get to start to be in it's a relationship to be in relationship with what is best for us. And the other point that I really love is that you can start anywhere. You can bring nature to you in your living environment, wherever that is, with however much space you have. I want to ask you also, because I have it in my notes, so I don't want to forget. I want to ask you about your healthcare routine in your last year of the military versus now.
Yeah, thank you. So I wrote a list of the medications that I was taking. I went back in my history to check. And the last year I was separating from the military, I was going through a medical evaluation board, and I was just not feeling well, feeling off, not like myself up to that point, had stopped working out regularly. I wasn't doing any kind of meditation or anything. And I was using gabapentin for nerve pain and some sleep meds as well, melatonin, and then Ambien when needed. And then transitioned pretty quickly over. I think it was the first and most critical step was changing my environment, getting a new feel for where I wanted to line up. And so moving back to the country after a short stay in South Florida gave me that time to reflect. And as mentioned, I started using marijuana. And I'll say that you're told, or I was told by society and culture, many things growing up that created a stigma in my mind. And the stigma was, you know, marijuana is probably not going to help. Like that's kind of how I felt. Um, and it did help. It helped dramatically. And if I didn't say, you know what, I'm not going to listen to what they have to say about it. When I say they, I can share you just a real quick personal story. I told my physician at the VA that I was using medical marijuana, and her exact response was, well, the research I see seems to indicate that medical marijuana only provides psychosomatic relief. And just that was her way of saying, it works if you believe it, but most people, if they don't believe it, it's not going to work. Like a sugar pill. And so that was one of my big wake up calls to say that a lot of the people that are perpetuating the stigma, they're not bad people, but a lot of them are not interested in changing their world approach, or just not interested in moving in a direction where they're considering all of the data and all of the information. So that was probably in her guidance for um, the therapy. Over the years, I've just repeatedly told them, to the point where now I don't even say it. I just bring in like notes, and I'm like, if you need my notes, they're right here. But they have put into my account with the VA that I've been using the marijuana for a number of years now with benefit. And so that's just been part of my journey. And I'll say for anybody who's currently in the military, or if you're watching this and you're thinking about getting out of the military, uh, it's a very difficult process, and it's challenging, especially if you have any injuries. So I would implore you to go see a doctor if you need help, whether it's physical, mental, spiritual. Don't allow the systems to beat you down. Don't allow the people who are in your section to make you feel like you're not worth it. Don't allow the stigma to stick, because it's just that, a stigma. And oftentimes, seems like when it seems like others have bad intentions, or they're trying to hold you back, that might not be their goal. That might not be their intention at all. They might just be stuck in their own mind, in their own place. So it's been very helpful for me to take that perspective, especially in managing myself and my health with the VA, to say that there is a system out there that is designed to help veterans. But just like every big system that's run by humans, there's going to be room for error. So just try and keep a positive mindset, and know that there are people that want you to get help. And there are systems in place that are going to help you, but you're not going to get any help unless you first step through that door and you want that help.
Do you want to speak to any of the system of help? Because I remember you had a specific group of veterans that were advocating for you when you were going through your process.
Yeah, so there's a number of different veteran organizations out there. In terms of me getting the help I need from the VA, it's mostly just going had to switch multiple physicians, and I did that by just going through the advocate there as a patient advocate at the Veterans Administration. And that's the best place to go if anybody's not getting the help that they need from the VA, is go to your patient advocate first. And yeah, so it's another thing that I would like to speak about, because um, I've been an advocate for a long time. When I was in tech school, I just took a job as a white rope, a chaplain's assistant, because, well, I number one, I wanted to help others, but I also needed a spot to go after I was done working at my job site in technical school, and the Solid Rock Cafe gave me that. Part of my job was to assist people that were not feeling well mentally. And my main responsibility was to identify those individuals and escort them to the chaplain if necessary. And many of them were contemplating suicide. That extended into my 5th year when I was in the military. I was in the Air Force. I was in Korea at the time. And I got an opportunity to become a victim advocate for the SARC office. And that's the Sexual Assault Response and Prevention Office for the Air Force. And I work directly for the commander to help people who might have been victims with understanding their options for reporting. In the military, you only have two options, and that's open or closed. And essentially, if you're open, that means everyone in your chain of command will know what's happened with your case. If it's a closed case, then in that case, we handle it differently. I would bring the victim to a coordinator, and I would work with the coordinator to help the individual with their reporting so that it doesn't get out of the that room, and they can be confident that that we would report to law enforcement the facts, and those facts would be investigated without interference from the chain of command, so to speak. And so, you know, this advocate hat, it didn't just happen overnight. It's something that has developed, and I've enjoyed learning how to do it over the period of like 12 years. And it's culminated in my ability to recognize that one size shoe does not fit all, and cannabis can help some. It's not for everybody, but most importantly, we're discussing our human rights. And in my opinion, we should all have the ability and the right to grow these plants on our own property for our benefit, for the benefit of neighbors, in an unselfish way. And we do that on the backs of the forefathers in the industry, the Jack Herrers and others who, you know, spent time in prison, rehabilitated, came back out, still fighting. And that's part of the sentiment that I bring.
Yeah, great sentiment. And just want to take a breath and pause. Yeah, just connecting, through that journey that you have been on, speaking to being an advocate and, working for the chaplain, working, with potentially people who were suicidal, and then the things that you probably experienced working with people who had been potentially sexually experienced sexual assault or sexual abuse in some way, and going through those cases, and then coming to just the human rights. Yeah, the human rights, and how, yeah, we have basic, and we should have basic rights as humans. One, to determine what is best for us, and two, to grow. I fully receive and connect with that. If somebody wants to grow a plant on their own property for their own benefit, for the benefits that that brings to them, then yeah, that why is that illegal? But we don't need to go into all of that. um okay, we can start to wrap things up, because I we've been about an hour and I could keep talking all day. But I would love for you to just speak a little bit about your book. You're launching a book soon. Is this going to be available to the public? What would you like to say about your book,
Yes, thank
if
you for the
anything?
opportunity. So it will be available. The book is called Syrinx, and that word has two meanings. I'm not going to get into it here, but let's just say they connect with me in this way. You know, while we all are going through things, whether it's pain, physically, emotionally, spiritually, um, it's always important to remember that, as mentioned earlier, there's going to be ebbs and flows. And so the book is just documenting my life experience and going through those ebbs and flows. And I want to leave the reader with hope and understanding, and knowing that there's always potential for room for growth. In fact, that was going to be the title of the book, was Room for Growth. And then it's been a whirlwind of the last few weeks and days, and I felt compelled to change it to Syrinx because it is deeply personal. And I want to share as much as I can from my journey with the reader in hopes that it will benefit them as well. And so I appreciate you taking me on. The book will launch here in the next couple weeks or month or so. And if anybody's interested in the book or my story, you can always go to our website. It's happyfarmscbd.com, and farms is spelled PHARMS. So feel free to check it out. I'm always open for conversation and discussion. So reach out to me anytime.
And do you ship your products? Do you ship your products worldwide or just in the
Not
US?
worldwide, to all 50 states.
All 50 states. Okay. Ship your products to all 50 states. And
Correct.
so you just shared your website, and we will have all of Joey's links in the beneath this, beneath the podcast, beneath the YouTube. So you'll be able to click on all of those. And is there any final words, any final message that you'd want to share with everyone before we close out?
There is. So this is really a blessing and a privilege to be on this podcast with you. And I think we're connecting in this way, particularly because I had the opportunity to witness your journey, and it's an amazing one. And I can see why so many people follow you and love you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Just had to pause and take that in. I'm feeling the love. I'm receiving the love, and I'll give it back. I'm super, super proud of you. I'm super proud of you. Uh, Joseph, Joey, all the different names.
Can't call me Joseph. I'm not in trouble,
No,
right?
I know you've got it on your Joseph K.
Joseph
Remy.
Kelly Remy. That's what they used to
Yeah.
yell at me when I was in trouble in the house.
Yeah.
Joseph Kelly Remy again.
But you've done, you did what you felt a strong calling to go into the military. And, I remember that time of your life and our lives when you made that choice. And we won't go into that too right now, but, our father had just passed. And so it was uh, kind of coming off of that, you made that decision to go into the military, and you served over 8 years, and you not only did a lot of good with the work that you did, but also the extracurricular work that you did, that you touched on, in the chaplain's office, and with the people who had, experienced sexual abuse. And so much good. And then coming out and going through this personal inner experiment. You could be on these opioids, you could be just laying around, you could be whatever, but you did not make that choice. You made the choice to go inward, to connect with what is going to be best supportive for you, and to do breath work, to grow food on the lands, to be to meditate, to be uh working on the self, and to be um yeah, helping people again in this way, right? You took what helped you, and now are bringing it to the masses to help other veterans, but not just other veterans, other people. I know that you help a lot of people who have chronic pain and chronic medical conditions and things along those lines. And you spoke to some of those testimonials, and I was going to ask you to share some more stories, but people can go and you share a lot on social media. and share testimonials on your website. So go and check out everything, all of the amazing work that Joey is doing. And you also will get to see he oftentimes shares things about his wife, Stephanie, who is my lovely sister-in-law, and my two beautiful nephews, who are amazing boys that you are raising. So I've really enjoyed this conversation. I'm glad that you said yes, and we're here, and we could get this story out. Any final thing?
Thanks for having me. Happy to come back anytime.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll come back and we'll do it again. All right, everyone. Well, until next time, let's take a breath. And we will see you soon. Thank you for listening to One Breath Wisdom. If something in today's episode spoke to you, I would love to know it. Send me a message on Instagram at One Breath Institute or at Lisa McNett, and please share the episode with someone else who needs to hear it. Remember, you are not here to carry it all. You are here to come home to yourself, one breath at a time. Until next time, take a breath and be well.